Hey everybody, welcome to today's video. We are going to cover the 11,000 mile update on my 18 Crosstrek, but more importantly, we're going to talk about the resolution of the issue I had with my sway bar bushing coming detached. All right guys, so we are going to cover the sway bar bushing issue first, and then I'll talk a little bit about the 11,000 mile update and just a couple little things I want to mention. There's not a whole lot to talk about, and I think after this update, I'm probably going to start doing them every 5,000 miles instead of every 1,000. But we'll see how that goes. Maybe if something big happens in between, I will update you on stuff every 1,000 miles still. But as far as the sway bar bushing goes, if you're new to the channel and you have no idea what I'm talking about, check this video out right here. This is the video when I was out on the trail. I started hearing the noise, and then kind of the resolution of looking under the car and explaining what I thought happened at the time. I'm just going to give you a quick nutshell what this is all about and what the resolution was. So first and foremost, I started hearing a metallic rattle when I was off-road. It sounded like something was kind of just knocking in the suspension on the driver's side. And I could not determine what it was. That didn't make the car feel weird when I was off-road, didn't make the car feel weird going 55, 60 on the way home on the road. So I took the car to the dealer the next day. They put it up on the lift, and they determined, or what they found was this. They found that I had a little bit of damage to my rear trailing arm. I had damaged end link, which if you're not familiar, in just a second here, I'll show you a diagram of what I'm talking about. And then my sway bar bushing, which is supposed to be attached to the firewall with 2 bolts, the bolts had fallen out, and the sway bar bushing was just hanging there. The sway bar itself actually comes through it like this. This is attached to the firewall. This part of the sway bar bushing attaches to the end link, and then this end link attaches to the wheel carrier of the car. All right, so here is the trailing arm, and this had a little bit of damage right here, as you probably saw in the video. But I call this whole thing the wheel carrier. That may be incorrect, but you can see it's connected here. This is the end link that was damaged, and you can see it's connected to a different part of the quote-unquote wheel carrier. Here's where the end link connects to the sway bar, which is right here. And then here's the sway bar bushing, and these are the 2 bolts in question that I was telling you that fell out. And then obviously the sway bar bushing goes all the way to the other side, and there's an exact one of these on the other side, same connections and everything. They determined at the dealership that the damage that I did to the trailing arm, which was definitely probably something I hit on the trail or rubbed against or whatever, is what caused the issues with the end link as well as the sway bar bushing. When I was at the dealership at that time, I honestly didn't really know how everything was connected, so I was like, okay, cool, whatever. They didn't have parts in stock, so they put in 2 new bolts in the sway bar bushing and sent me on my way, thinking parts would be in a week or 2. When I got home from that, I got under the car, crawled around for some time, and that's all the stuff I put in the other video I mentioned. And I determined that there was no way that the trailing arm damage had anything to do with the sway bar bushing coming loose the way that it did. Number one, there were no damage to the threads of the bolts. There was no damage to the sway bar bushing or the sway bar itself. And when you look at the diagram, you can see that if there was damage to this trailing arm and damage here, it would have had to have been some massive impact that would have caused those 2 things to happen at the same time for them to be related. Personally, I don't think the trailing arm, little bit of a damage I did to that, was even done on the same day. I think that was done probably weeks before. And the sway bar bushing was wholly done on itself. So as it turns out, because of Scott, the service manager at my local dealership, my buddy Trent, they worked with, there's a technical engineer that comes around to the dealerships, and they kind of brought my case before him because I really got nowhere with Subaru of America online. And he determined, I'm not exactly sure of all the details of how it worked out, but they determined that there was a range of 18 Crosstrek Vins that the sway bar bushing bolts were not torqued correctly, and my car fell into that category. I'm going to put the VIN number below, and my understanding is anything before that, there is a slight chance that the sway bar bushing bolts on those cars were not torqued to specification, whereas after that VIN number, they're all good to go. So it's nothing to panic about and like run to your dealership and say, hey, I heard there's a sway bar bushing issue, nothing like that. But check out the VIN, see if yours is before or after, and if you're having any kind of rattles or you notice anything unusual in your rear suspension, it's worth going to the dealer and having them check it out. Again, it's not like a huge safety problem, it's nothing along those lines, but something worth knowing about if you are in that VIN range and you're having some issues. So check that out. So Subaru of America actually reimbursed me for everything related to this sway bar bushing issue, and that includes the labor, the parts, the realignment, and even the trailing arm that I know that I was the one that damaged. So for them to reimburse me for everything, in my opinion, is phenomenal customer service, and I can't thank my service manager and my buddy Trent enough for going to bat for me and working this all out. It did take a while to get this resolved, and in all honesty, when I wrote my letter to Subaru of America, I was not looking to be told I was right. I was not looking to be reimbursed. I just wanted to know how this could happen and why these bolts would just magically come out, because I was sure that it was not related to the trailing arm damage. So I'm happy to report that Subaru absolutely took care of me, and it's just another example of their commitment to customer service, in my opinion. So check out the VIN number, see if your car's in there, and if it is and you're having issues, take it to the dealer. If not, I bet you could probably wait until you have your next service appointment and just have them make sure they're torqued properly. So a very cool resolution, and just again, another example of why I love Subaru and I love my little Crosstrek. So with that all said, beyond that 11,000 mile update, the one thing I want to talk about mostly is, now that I've had quite a few miles, probably 1,000 miles or so on the front bar and the skid plate from LP Adventure, I've determined that I absolutely want to get a lift now. Losing that 1.5 inches of ground clearance on a daily basis doesn't really make a difference. On the trail though, you can definitely, you notice the 1.5 inches is gone. And in fact, I've actually run into a couple of parking curbs, which basically unheard of in my 14, and before I got those things put on, never happened. I'm not saying I'm upset that I got those. I think they're excellent. They're fantastic quality and definitely provide amazing protection. I just want that 1.5 inches of lift back. So I am going to go with the LP Adventure 1.5 inch lift, hopefully in the next couple of months. So look for a video on that. I chose LP basically because I've dealt with them already. Their customer service was amazing, and if you read on their website, they do a lot of testing with their products, and they have safety ratings and stuff for their lifts. So that's kind of the reason I went with them. There are a lot of companies out there making lifts for the Crosstrek, and I'm sure they're also excellent, but this is just the way I'm going to go, and I'll let you know how it turns out once I get it installed. Other stuff, I have an appointment on June 3rd to do an oil change and to get the latest head unit. I guess there's a head unit update. I'm not sure specifically if that affects all the Crosstreks or if that's just the 18s, or if it's, like I said, all across for all head units. I do not have navigation, but I've gotten probably 5 or 6 notices telling me, hey, there's a recall. So I'll go in and do that, and I'll let you know how that turns out. Up to the last time I did an update, my Apple CarPlay has been working great. My head unit's doing well. I did have one day that was really interesting when I turned the car on and nothing would load. None of the channels, Sirius XM, none of the radio channel, nothing would load. So I had to turn it off and I turned it back on. It was like it was stuck booting up or something, and I'd never seen that before. That was new. So I'm assuming the recall probably affects or addresses a lot of that kind of stuff that's going on, but overall mine's been pretty good. Other kind of housekeeping things, I'm still enjoying the lights that I put on the car, the Hellas, but sadly I still have not connected, or I have not put the switch where I want to. I want to put it in one of the little dummy slots where Subaru has some extra spots there. I've just been busy with stuff, and I need to pull the dash apart and open that up and try to mount it. I may have to get an actual different switch to plug the wires into, but the lights are still working. The relays, the second relay that I put on there is actually working great, and I'm still real happy with the lights. I like the way they look, but still have not tested them much off-road. One thing that I have noticed over the last, it was actually before I got the skid plate and the lift put on, it's very subtle, but it's a little bit what I would call a rattle, almost as if you had a plastic, like a milk jug that was empty, that's rubbing against something, and it's kind of giving me a what I would consider a hollow rattle noise. Can't figure that one out either. I went through the engine bay and found areas where the plastics in there were a little bit loose. Gosh, I got bugs attacking me, sorry. And I put these little felt circles in spots just to kind of tighten it up, but I'm still having the noise, so it seems to be coming from the front driver's area for the most part. So I'm gonna have them check that out too when I take it to the dealership, and I'll let you know what the resolution is on that one. Rest of the stuff, interior of the car, still no rattles there. The leather's holding up great. I have no complaints with that. Really, I have nothing to complain about in the inside of the car. My winter gas mileage has been improving since we're starting to warm up around here, and I'm not using the heater, and I'm not letting the car idle to warm up. So I'm back into 31 to 32 range as far as computer-based MPG, so that's cool. Everything else in the car is functioning great. No complaints. It's a great, solid little car. Again, I'm only at 11,200 or 300 miles, so I wouldn't expect anything to really go wrong at this point, but just enjoying it. And hopefully I will be getting out on the trail soon and get you some new off-road stuff. I have a video coming up about a hitch carrying bag from Boogie RV. It is a company that contacted me and sent it to me to try. So I will be putting a video up on that in the next few days. So look forward to that. But otherwise, I think that's about it, 11,000 wise. I don't have anything too exciting over the last 1,000 miles other than the resolution with the sway bar bushing, which is awesome. I'll keep you updated on everything else. If you guys have questions or comments and anything I can help you with at all, please feel free to send me an email or leave a comment below. Thanks, guys. We'll see you next time.